Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Book Cave with me, Jenny. Today I am going to be doing a manga vlog because I have a lot of Junji Ito books that I have not read yet, so I'm going to try and get caught up with them in this video. So I'm going to be reading The Liminal Zone, which is, I believe, short stories. Yes, 4 short stories. Then I will be reading Black Paradox as well, which is about a group of 4 people who come together on a website. And then another short story collection, Tombs, and the next short story collection, which is Soichi, which I believe this one is all supposed to center around Soichi, this kind of like demonic little boy. And then I will be reading Mimi's Tales of Terror, which is, again, short stories. These are actually supposed to be more like urban legends, and they were written and collected by Hirokatsu Kihara. And then the final book, which I don't have with me right now, is going to be Stitches, and that is also a Junji Ito and Hirokatsu Kihara kind of team up. So I'm definitely excited to get to all of these, and I feel like this is kind of fitting to do it in the summer. Sorry, my dog found the squeaking pig, and he absolutely loves that thing. So as I was saying, this feels very fitting to do it in summer, as you know, we have our camp ghost stories, and Japan also has their, like, summer test of courage. And so, yeah, I feel like this is very fitting. And I'm going to stop this now so that you don't have to listen to my dog squeak anymore. So the first out of the pile of Junji Ito that I haven't read yet that I read was Stitches. And this is based on short stories collected by Hirokatsu Kihara. And so this is actually going to influence the next book that I read by him, which will be Mimi's Tales of Terror, because those were also urban legends, true stories from Hirokatsu Kihara. But this is a collection of 9 stories and then 1 manga. And the stories are actually illustrated. And I believe they pretty much all have like an illustration per page. And most of these, in all honesty, and then you got the ones like this. And, most of these, in all honesty, are more just kind of semi-creepy / unsettling rather than really, really scary. And this is one of my favorite pages here. So, yeah, if you like the urban legend aspect of horror, this would be a good one to check out. If you're looking for stuff that's really and truly creepy, there's really not many in here, although I will say that Face, The Play, and Lips were the more scarier of them, with probably the creepiest for me being The Play, just because of the one little comment at the end. But yeah, this was definitely a solid Junji Ito entry, and I am glad that I read it being a fan of his. So, as I said when I finished Stitches, this is the next Junji Ito manga that I've read out of the backlist fizz I have, and this is Mimi's Tales of Terror. As you can see up here, the original story was by Hirokatsu Kihara, the same one that did Stitches. Now, this one, the whole reason it's called Mimi's Tales of Terror is that this was adopted from... it doesn't say. This was adopted from Shin Mimi Bukoro, was the name of the collection, which translates to New Earmuffs. So I'm assuming they named her Mimi because of the Mimi Bukoro. And so this one, like I said, it definitely takes more liberties, as Junji Ito says in the back. The original collection was just a collection of short stories that had really happened. And in this manga, Junji Ito has made up this girl, Mimi, who basically is the common thread through these stories. So, like, it happens to a friend of hers or is in her apartment complex or something like that. And this is a collection of 10 stories total. So we have 9 of them are from the New Earmuffs collection, and that is On the Utility Pole, The Woman Next Door, Rustling in the Grass, Grave Placement, Seashore, Just the Two of Us, Scarlet Circle, Sign in the Field. And then the one that is a Junji Ito original, from my understanding, and does not feature Mimi, is Monster Prop. So this one, I feel like it was definitely more unsettling than Stitches. At least in some of the stories. There were some that were very short. Like On the Utility Pole is only about 4 pages. Now, that one was pretty creepy. You know, that's sort of things that they see. And, yeah, but in all honesty, that one was kind of more tame. Now, The Woman Next Door, I really, really liked that. And I really want to know how much, like, which parts of that came from Junji Ito and which parts were, like, in the true story. I really, really recommend checking that one out. Like, that one was really creepy. The Rustling in the Grass, that one was extremely creepy as well. Grave Placement was just kind of odd. If it was a little creepy, but it was one of those, it definitely had an explanation. Seashore was really creepy. Just the Two of Us as well. Scarlet Circle was one of those that was like, this is what people do, sort of thing. Sign in the Field was another just short, like, little 4-page one that was something easily explained. And Monster Prop was the one that honestly probably unsettled me the most, just because of, well, several things. Like the actual supernatural element and the element of why would somebody do what she did. Like, that was just very creepy. And yeah, so if you're into horror, as I've said with the other one, I definitely recommend Junji Ito. And I feel like this would be another good one to start with for him, because it's very short. It's like under 280 pages. And with it being 10 short stories, you know, you don't really have to commit that much time to read one of the stories, and I feel like they all do pack a pretty good punch, and just Junji Ito's visuals are always top notch to me, and like especially for horror, they just kind of bring that in. And yeah, so I'm not sure what I'm going to read next by him. I do still have quite a few left. I'm thinking I might do another short one, so that really only leaves either the Liminal Zone or Black Paradox. But I will decide and let you all know what I think of that one next. For my third Junji Ito, I chose Black Paradox, and this is another short one, and this is one of his self-contained stories. This is all one overarching story, and it follows these 4 people on the front cover, and it starts out with they all want to commit suicide, and these 3 at least each have a double, and that's why they want to commit suicide. She just has an uneasy feeling about the future, and that is her reasoning. And yeah, it's very interesting. And in the very first chapter, we meet Maruso, and she actually meets up with all 3 of their doubles, and then runs into the real them, and that kind of starts off the plot. Now, that is one thing that's not really explained, is why do the doubles want Maruso? That is not really touched on, but I feel like that's kind of not a huge point in the book. The whole point in the book is about these gems and the power they have and the secrets they hold. And yeah, obviously this is more of a science fiction book because these orbs hold great power. They're like, is basically a new energy source. And so it brings about some different things, and you have the exploration to find them. And yeah, I really like Junji Ito's sci-fi stuff, and I might actually wind up rereading Romina because I did really enjoy that, but I read it before I started on BookTube, so this would kind of be a good time to reread it and just have it in this video. But yes, obviously, as I said, I really did enjoy this. I do feel like it's definitely not for everybody, just because the suicide plot is very, very prominent. So if that bothers you, then I would just definitely skip this. I would not even touch it, because it does kind of permeate the whole story. But other than that, if you've read any other Junji Ito, if you're okay with horror, then this is kind of along the lines of his other works with the horror and such. And I did get notice from my library that his newest collection, Alley, came in, so I picked that up. And I'm not sure if I'll be reading that or the Liminal Zone next, but once I choose and read the next book, I will check back in with you all. So the Junji Ito book that I decided to pick up, I did the Liminal Zone, and this is the last of his shorter works. The other 3 I have left are a little longer, but this is a collection of 4 short stories. We have Weeping Woman Way, Madonna, The Spirit Flow of Aokigahara, and Slumber. So these were all 4 more unsettling than truly scary. Weeping Woman Way, I think, was probably the least scary. Um, then the Madonna was just downright creepy and very unsettling, as was Aokigahara, but the kind of style, I guess, and the way the people were drawn in that one afterwards was kind of a little ridiculous, so it added in a little bit of humor there. And I read in the afterword that that one was originally going to be about humans who had changed to deal with some sort of solar wind. And I think I might have liked it more with that than with it being a spiritual, supernatural thing. And then the last one, Slumber, was probably the most, well, tied for the most unsettling. I would say that one was more unsettling in the supernatural element, whereas Madonna, the characters themselves were more unsettling. And I do like the way Junji Ito's style is evolving a little bit, as you can see on the cover that I've been holding up this whole time. Like, it's still definitely Junji Ito, but I feel like it's a little more polished. And yeah, if you like horror manga, I would definitely recommend this. This is probably a pretty easy place to start. I feel like most of his short story collections are an easy place to start, just because of how short they are. But I feel like this is definitely a pretty strong one, and that all the stories in this are strong. So I have left now Soichi, Tombs, and Alley. I think I'm going to go on to Tombs next, and then I will let you all know what I think of that. So I decided to read Alley for my next collection of short stories, or I should say my first collection of long short stories. And this has 10 in it, which of course we have Alley. So we have Alley, Descent, The Ward, The Inn, Blessing, Smokers Club, Mold, Town of No Roads, Memory, and Ice Cream Bus. And these are definitely all pretty creepy. I have to say my favorite is probably Memory. And I don't remember a whole lot about Descent, so I'm going to say that's probably my least favorite. Okay, now I remember, now that I look at it. So yeah, Descent is one that's more sci-fi, so that one I do like, but it's not necessarily all that creepy. So yeah, like I said, my favorite one I would have to say is probably Memory. I feel like that one's kind of the Junji Ito human horror part, as is Alley. And one thing that all 10 of these stories have in common that honestly most of his other ones don't is that I feel like all of these are very open-ended in a way. Like, it's definitely highly likely that this, there's one particular ending, at least in some of them, but that's not actually shown. For example, one that leaves a lot of questions is Town of No Roads, because it starts out with the girl's parents and siblings acting weird. She goes to stay with her aunt, and her aunt lives in a town with no roads. And then at the end, there is no explanation for anything. Why is her family that she lives with acting weird? Why is her aunt's town that way? And a bunch of other questions as well that I'm not going to discuss because they'd be spoilers. But yeah, I definitely recommend this collection if you kind of like the more open-ended suspense slash horror. And that's one thing I'd say about this too, is that it's a pretty good mix of suspense stories and horror stories. I will say The Ward is one that is pretty much all horror, as is Mold. And yeah, those two were just kind of like ugh for body horror reasons. And yeah, but I did definitely enjoy this, and I believe I will read Tombs next, so I will read that and then report back. So I finished Tombs. This is a collection of 9 stories, and they are Tombs, Clubhouse, Slug Girl, The Window Next Door, Washed Ashore, The Strange Tale of the Tunnel, Bronze Statue, Floaters, and The Bloody Story of Shirosuna. So now these were all quite interesting, and unlike in Alley, I did feel like most of these had a solid conclusion. And I do have to say, though, that a few didn't. Clubhouse really didn't. And let's see, which one else didn't? Washed Ashore kind of didn't. That one was one of the really creepy ones. That definitely had some like monster horror going to it. Bronze Statue. That was actually probably my favorite in here. Just the absolute poetic justice of that ending was absolutely awesome, and I absolutely loved it. And then The Strange Tale of the Tunnel was another interesting one. That one was more of a paranormal story, and I did really enjoy it as well. So overall, this is a very solid story collection. They're all a decent length, and they're kind of varied in what they are. So I feel like, as with most of his short story tales, this is a good kind of like little taste of Junji Ito. And if you do like Washed Ashore when you read this, you definitely want to read Gyo. And if you've read Gyo and did not like that, for whatever reason, you found it creepy and just didn't like it, do not read Washed Ashore. And I would definitely recommend not reading this late at night, because there are some pretty creepy things in here that I feel like Junji Ito does really, really well. So I finished the final Junji Ito book that I need to be caught up right now, and that was, as you can see, Soichi, which is a short story collection, and it is, I believe, 10. Yes, it's 10 stories, and these are all about Soichi. And honestly, I have to say, this was the weakest of all the Junji Ito books I've read. Although Soichi is a little bit on the creepy side, a lot of it is just him being a creep and being a jerk and playing pranks. And then there's a few hints of that maybe he can do this or do that, but I don't feel like they were explored that well, and I don't really feel like any of this was that scary or unnerving or anything like that. This was just more kind of a collection of stories about an annoying boy. So yeah, unfortunately I ended this video on a little bit of a low note. I actually gave this only 2 stars, and that is definitely one of the lowest ratings I've ever given a manga in general, and definitely the lowest of any of Junji Ito's books. But as always, if you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe to see more bookish content from me, and I will have my Discord linked down below, and I hope to see you there or in my next video next time here in the Book Cave.